Good morning. Yes, signs and banners have been left here outside the White House, some reading Free Palestine, others reading genocide.
As the pro-Palestine protests go on, another shadowy figure claiming to be a Hell's Angels is threatening to attack the protesters.
Don't think we're not watching you. We know who you are, who your families are. I'm glad you're sticking your ugly heads up, Palestine. You're gonna be tracked. You're fucking DMW. That means dead man or woman walking. You are the enemy. Come to Middle America and try to do what you're doing.
That was the message in an anonymous, threatening voicemail sent to a Washington, D.C.-based Palestinian advocacy organization on 31st October 2023.
The Utah man accused of making these series of violent threats to a Palestinian advocacy group in Washington, D.C., claimed that the infamous Hells Angels motorcycle gang had the organization in its sights.
And there was more to come. In the next few days, 4 more voicemails were sent, all from an unidentified number and all equally chilling. But who would be so hell-bent on stopping the pro-Palestinian protests to send these threatening messages? And most importantly, why would he claim to be a Hell's Angel? His name is Kevin Brent Buchanan, and this is the genesis of his voicemails. The caller. It was October 31st in Toole, Utah. A disgruntled man was watching the news on TV. His eyes became red with anger when pro-Palestine organizations appeared on screen.
Free Palestine!
Free Palestine!
Saturday's protest inside Harvard Yard attracted over 250 supporters of Palestine.
How dare these foreigners come to his country and demand justice? He couldn't take it anymore. He goes out, gets into his car, and speeds off to a nearby Walmart. He looks suspicious. After entering the Walmart store, he goes straight to the electronics section and picks up a burner phone. He reads the instructions and makes sure it says untraceable. He heads to the counter. "How much is this?" The cashier replies, $100. No one knew what he was going to do with the burner phone at the store, but they all assumed it was for toying around.
Little did they know that this man might be a Hell's Angel, and he's about to send some serious, threatening messages to pro-Palestine protesters.
But he committed a grave mistake. He used his credit card to pay for it. He gets out of the store and heads to his car. He looks around before entering the car and speeds off to his home. He takes out the phone and dials in a number he had seen on the news reports. No one answers. It goes straight to voicemail.
Don't think we're not watching you. We know who you are, who your families are. I'm glad you're sticking your ugly heads up, Palestine. You're gonna be tracked. You're fucking DMW. That means dead man or woman walking. You are the enemy. Come to Middle America and try to do what you're doing.
Threats after threats. In November 1st, 2023, he sent 2 more messages. And if the first one wasn't clear enough, these ones do an even better job.
Palestinians are going to die by the hundreds of thousands. You're just all kinds of fucked up and stupid, and that's why you're going to die. You are the enemy. You are a threat to the national security of the United States, and you are fucking stinking rotten pieces of shit. You are going to get what's coming to you very, very, very soon, you pieces of Palestinian traitors. And I'm gonna love it.
Then the second voicemail went through.
Guess what? The Hells Angels have silently declared war on you, so you just go ahead and parade around, do what you want, but you're marked.
And if you thought he had enough, he sent 2 more voicemails the next day. He threatened to burn the Quran, challenged the Palestinian group to call them back, and accused the group of being afraid to answer the calls. Additionally, the caller expressed his hope that the people working at the organization were going to die violently, and that he hoped their wives and children got raped and beheaded. At the time, the Palestinian advocacy group was one of the many pro-Palestine demonstrators who had held numerous strikes and rallies in support of the cause.
Israel has ordered over 1 million Palestinians to flee their homes or be killed.
The threats were meant to intimidate the organization and prevent its members from participating in public demonstrations for Palestinian rights in Washington. However, the demonstrators refused to be threatened and organized and endorsed a Free Palestine event in Washington's Freedom Plaza on November 4. But when the man on the voicemail mentioned the Hells Angels, one of the most revered motorcycle clubs, it raised eyebrows and made the threats even more serious. And on the 14th of November, the threatened organization filed a criminal complaint that left the authorities with more questions than answers. Did they succeed in finding out the person or people behind the calls and take action against them? Tracing the caller. After receiving a formal complaint about the threats, the police set out to find the caller. The first thing was to identify the device which the voicemails were being sent from. It was a TracFone prepaid, no-contract mobile device. The manufacturer helped the police to a Walmart in Tuil, and the police discovered that the buyer had paid for it using an American Express card registered to a Kevin Brent Buchanan of Utah. The police obtained an arrest warrant, and Buchanan was arrested. He was charged with making interstate threats against the unspecified Palestinian advocacy organization, and he continues to be held pending trial. The Hells Angels and the Israeli-Hamas war.
I can confirm that the threats did happen. They were pretty bad threats. They were not your run-of-the-mill. We welcome the fact that the FBI is taking action, especially given the heightened tensions that we're seeing. We need to take all threats seriously.
These words only confirmed the threats, but they also left many questions among the public. The main question: why would the Hells Angels interfere with an international crisis like the Israeli-Hamas conflict?
The Hells Angels have a reputation for being notorious and dangerous, but they are hardly involved in politics. However, since the Israeli-Hamas conflict broke out in October 2023, everyone seemed to have their say over who is right and who is wrong. And if the threat that Buchanan made was true, the Hells Angels seemed to have announced their stand, even though detectives didn't identify any links between him and the Hells Angels. Up to the time he sent the threatening emails, different Palestinian advocacy groups had held numerous rallies across the United States. The government sided with Israel, who have been their greatest allies since the 1960s. And since the Hells Angels are mostly Vietnam veterans, they're proud of their country, have strong patriotism, and would destroy anyone who would try to bring their country down. So no one could fault them.
The Hells Angels' first members were Vietnam War veterans who gave everything for their country in the war, and that image has been upheld through generations. The club recruits former military veterans who are used to violence and can adapt quickly.
On December 2nd, 2023, barely a month after Buchanan's arrest, an unusual standoff took place on Park Street. Pro-Palestine protesters walking down towards the city center bumped into some Santas on a bike ride heading up the hill. Luckily, the police were on the scene to prevent any violence, and the bikers could only rev their bikes as the protesters chanted at them. And this confirmed how the Hells Angels and other biker clubs in the United States felt about pro-Palestinian agencies.
Although there have been no attacks by the Hells Angels on Palestinians or pro-Palestinian advocacy organizations in America, the Angels are American nationalists and strongly patriotic, so they support the United States' longtime allies, Israel. Palestine is also believed to have started the war, so the club is within its rights to support Israel.